Hi everyone, my name is Garry Trinder. I'm a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft, and I have with me today.
Hey everybody, my name is Waldek Mastykarz, and I'm developer advocate for Microsoft 365.
And we have a guest with us today. You may have noticed we have Kev with us. Kev, let's introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Kevin McDonnell. I'm a Microsoft 365 MVP and I work at Avanade, a large Microsoft partner. And there I'm the Copilot strategy and modern workplace AI lead. And yes, I do need a Copilot to help me remember that title as well.
I think you need a Copilot to shorten that title as well. Maybe that's the way. That's an impressive title and fantastic, because today is all about, well, strategy, modern workplace, and certainly AI, right? So we're going to talk a bit about Copilot today. So Kev, you're working in AI in this workplace scenario. So how do you use Copilot in your day-to-day work? How does it, make your life better?
Well, as you can probably imagine, I use it an awful lot. But you kind of haven't started with my first usual question, which is which Copilot? And because I tend to use a blend of the different ones depending where I am. I'll use Copilot for Microsoft 365, lucky enough to have a license where if I'm trying to answer a question off our information, I will go into there and it uses our vast things that I have permission to kind of ask questions in our particular tone. But then if I'm doing more, especially with coding, I'm a very much an evening coder. I'll do a little bit for my day job, but mostly I'll sit down tapping away in front of the TV on my laptop. And because of that, I'm not always in the natural flow. And especially over the years, I've done lots of different languages, play around with a bit of C#, JavaScript, TypeScript. What framework are we using this week? That kind of thing. I love that ability with the Microsoft Copilot right there in Edge, right there within Bing, to be able to kind of get my scripts out from that. And it's not a case of jumping through loads and loads of different results, going through that page, trying to work out what on earth they're talking about, trying to work out if it is relevant to me. I can kind of use Copilot to get to that script quicker. I can get there. It's copy and pastable. And I'm lucky I have enough experience to be able to say, yeah, that feels about right as well. And I think that is an important lesson we're going to see with people as they come on. Having that enough understanding to be able to kind of wave that flag to say, yeah, something's not quite right here, versus, yes, that's exactly what I want. And more often than not, it's getting what I want from there as well. And I love that fact that you can tell a bit of a story as well. So whereas search, you say, I want to get this React framework to be able to load these hooks and things on there, but you've only got a little bit of text on there and you come back with all sorts of different results. With Copilot, you can tell that story. It's like, I'm building an app, it's in React. I want it to be able to connect to these things and fire these hooks, and I want it to be able to work within a Teams framework and sit within these SDKs, and I want it to do this. And you can have that nice little chat with it as well and kind of explain these things. And all those feeds into it, and it will splice together those different results that it finds into one place to kind of give you that consolidated answer, rather than you having to go and here's Teams, here's the information about a Teams framework, here's how that applies to React, and you have to kind of join these bits together. It does a lot of that for you, and I really love that.
And I guess there's also this most important part, right? Because like when you often get to stitch samples, right, from one source, then another, how often do you end up with a sample saying like, put a token here? And it's like, how do I get a token? And then you go somewhere else that shows you how to get a token in a way that is incompatible with your type of app. And then you are off the rails and trying to find your way about it, right?
You were watching my code from last week because I had exactly that scenario and used Copilot to kind of get towards that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I want to so with that, like, what does that mean for you to be able to stay in the zone or get in the zone and then stay in the zone, because you spend less time going around circles and spelunking the different answers that you find, as opposed to you can now stay in one place and focus on your app.
And I'm certainly one of these people who gets easily distracted, as Garry well knows. that I will sort of see one article and it'll mention something else. I go, oh, maybe I need to put this test framework in there, and maybe I need to do this. With Copilot, it's kind of cleared a lot of that clutter for me and cleared some of that distraction. It's kept me within that flow, and I'll tend to use it. I always have a Teams window. I live there within Teams, so I've got my Copilot prompts I can go straight to from that, and it means I'm getting less distracted. And I love the copilot.microsoft.com. Gives me that easy way of getting the web views plus my internal views. I have that open in the browser. I'm not jumping around to different things and going to different endpoints, having different experiences. I've got that common experience of being able to get to Copilot and everything that's needed there. And that keeps me in that flow as well.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were saying that the whole process of using the Copilot to help you to do something, right? Like writing a script or anything, is you have to really kind of focus on that task. So it's kind of making you focus by the way that you're using it, right? Because you're having to provide context through the prompt, saying, here's exactly what I want to achieve. And from a thought perspective, like I know that feeling very well. Like you kind of wander, you hit a few tabs, and you're just thinking, right, I've got 10 tabs open now. What was I actually doing again? And then you're kind of back in that circle.
And there is sound coming out of one of them, and you don't know which one.
Yeah, exactly. Which one is it?
And I'm just counting the 20 tabs I have open here. So maybe.
Yes, so the focus there, I think certainly, I resonate with that it does help, and it really makes you think, what am I asking for? Because if your input is off, then your output's going to be off. But to your point, right, it's a journey. Like you might start with something and then go, oh, right, I thought actually I'll add more context in, and then revise the answers that you've been given. So yeah, really interesting point there.
Yeah. And going back to what Waldek was talking about, the token one, the other example of that is it wasn't working. I wasn't getting the token. So I took that back to Copilot and said, I'm trying to achieve this. I'm getting this error. And it took me closer to what it was of how I was getting that, and bringing those I was putting together two different scenarios, and that's why it wasn't working. It kind of helped me answer that one. So you can take what you're trying to achieve with what your problem is. In the old days, gosh, that makes
very much the old days.
But you would,
we are old enough to be able to talk about the old days. Yeah. I definitely agree with that.
Well, no, the reason I was laughing is that's probably 6 months ago, is that I go and copy that error message and get all sorts of things that might relate to that. I might get Java examples.
Unknown error occurred. Good luck with that.
Exactly. But and if you try to put context by having a massive long search string, you will get kind of different bits to it and all sorts of things. With Copilot, you can put that context in, and it will help you get to more specific things. And it's about changing that habit of getting used to doing that, of telling that longer story at the right time. And that is something it's taken me a while to get that habit forming of doing that, of going down that way. But now I have. It genuinely has made me more productive.
There are two things that I want to instantly ask. And I'm asking two of them immediately, because otherwise it would just we will lose track and veer somewhere. So one is, when did it all click for you? Like, what was your aha when you saw it for first time? It was like, wow, I get it. You had that click. And two, you mentioned that it's all about having it ingrained in the way you work and think. What kind of tips you would give folks who are, very much new to it and are looking for ways to improve the way they work? So let's start with the first aha.
I think for me, it came from using the Teams AI library, and my good friend Garry Trinder here, who introduced me to that world. And I kind of went, oh, this is quite exciting. I love this. I can bring that power of Azure OpenAI, which I've been trying out as an endpoint. One of my many unfinished projects is to build a sample Microsoft 365 environment. And I wanted to, it came from, I did a lot of Viva stuff. I wanted a Viva Insights environment that I could build up and have run automatically. And I was like, we've got this amazing thing from OpenAI. This is before Azure OpenAI. I could get it to kind of build up Teams messages, and I could get it to take on different personas, and I could get it, I could build this environment that posted things on there. It could even run meetings. It could generate documents and simulate a working environment with this kind of theme to it. And I kind of got it moving a bit, but it wasn't going that well. And then Garry introduced me to Teams AI library. And the aha moment was the semantic kernel as part of that, the way you can build up these prompts as parts of code. And I was realizing that I can build code, I can build a service, but then I can wrap around it with a nice arty, fluenty, not fluent, don't confuse your libraries, but you could have that chat to it, and you could tell a story within that, and you could connect that to code. So you had, where we had this world of developers and designers, and kind of CSS was that nice link between them. We had a similar thing where you can build these prompts that could be put into a bit of the code very easily. And that way of, and as I started exploring that and talking and having that natural language way of asking code, I was like, I can do this just in Copilot as was starting to appear. And that kind of understanding then of exploring down how you write prompts, how you do that, became more and more natural. But it was that code journey that got me to that aha moment. And then your second part, tips for it. Listen to what everyone else is doing. I always speak with clients, build an internal community. And I'd say you can do that with the external community. Lovely people as yourself as part of the Microsoft 365 community. I'm desperately trying not to say PMP because I'll get in trouble. But that kind of world, you can edit that out later or leave it in.
We won't.
That's that world around there of kind of learning, seeing how different people are exploring it, seeing specific prompts that help you, that make you go, that works. I can try something similar to my challenge, and hearing what others are doing, listening to that. I love podcasts. I love watching YouTube videos, seeing those different ideas and then combining that into your natural flow, and then challenging yourself all the time, but going, could I do this in Copilot? Could I ask this differently? I know Copilot is being rammed down everyone's throats. There's a good reason, because we're seeing so much value from that. So learning what works and being able to realize what doesn't work, being able to realize that sometimes you put, again, I've talked a lot about that kind of search. Your natural thing is to put that same search query that you'd put in Bing into Copilot, and you don't get great results in that. So looking at what does work, learning from that and experimenting will get you down that right route. And then the other one, my favorite Copilot we haven't even touched on yet, is that GitHub Copilot. Why do I love it so much? Because I don't even realize it's there. It just completes my code. It thinks before me. It's not that kind of bot style, search style interface. It's embedded within the app you use. And I see the Copilots going further and further down this. I love it there when you don't have to think about it. It comes naturally on there. With some Copilots, you need to invest a bit of your time to build that habit. Other ones like GitHub, it just has slotted in there so beautifully. I love it.
Yeah, I think having an AI tool that is just, like, you don't have to do extra things. It's there as you need it, and providing you with, potential answers that then you can use is kind of like, when we're talking about that focus, right? You're not having to split, you have to go into like another tab away from your code. It's there. And I think, there's, I guess, different ways of looking at it, right? It's like you might start in, say, Microsoft Copilot and just kind of, go through ideas of just kind of like, I need to do something, right? I don't really know where to start. But I can get a basis of, okay, yeah, I can use these libraries, or here's a bit of a script, and then take that into like VS Code, and then start to delve into it even more, and actually write the code, maybe change things, change it to an app that you might already have, right? And the conventions you've got in the app, and you might think, I just want to change this now so it looks right, and it just speeds up that process. So I think coming back to kind of like the aha moment, was there a thing like when you were in GitHub Copilot and you were just like, oh, this is a game changer, like from what came before? Like, can you remember that moment of when that happened?
Yes, and it was a strange one. It's when my license expired. and I stopped having GitHub Copilot, and I went, I have to write
That's
my
my
own
intelligence.
code.
Oh, wait, this is intelligence.
I don't know how to do this and format it. I'm having to type everything, and I'm getting everything wrong. Why is this so hard? And I was like, it's not filling it in for me. My intelligence has disappeared. Oh, my license expired. And literally, it was probably about 10, 15 minutes because I'd ignored the emails. Don't ignore your emails, folks. There's important messages in there. And I realized I need to reactivated something. It was back there. And I was like, I hadn't realized how much I depended on that to kind of help fill in what I was doing, to help jump ahead. And it's often it's that nudge. And sometimes I'll type it out, but it's like, yes, that's what I need to do. I don't have to think. It's back to that focus. I can focus on what is the challenge I'm trying to get on here, not getting the right syntax for the code, not having my brain going, oh no, hang on, is that a PowerShell thing, or is that C# or TypeScript? Because it's doing it for me. It's auto completing that. And I can focus on what is the challenge that I'm trying to get out of it. That comes so much quicker. So the aha moment was when it stopped, I think.
Yeah, but it's also the thing that it's so cool to hear that it's so unobtrusive, right? It's there, and it feels so intuitive that you kind of get to the point where you expect it to be, and then when it is, it's like, wait a minute, like you don't see it when it's there, but you notice instantly when it is. It's kind of the same for me, where when I work, I play the music all the time. I have no idea what's on, but the moment it stops, like it's quiet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same effect where you don't pay attention, but it's there in the background. It helps you all the time. It helps you stay in the zone. And the moment it stops, you're like instantly as if somebody would come to you, shake you awake, and you're like, what's wrong?
Yeah, I find the same with Spotify. I love the fact that it kind of carries on after an album and can play similar music. But that's my switch moment. I sound like, this is a different artist or a slightly different style, and I've lost my focus at that point. It's similar, even if it doesn't stop, it's just enough to bring you out of that bubble you've managed to get to, that kind of hyper focus that suddenly drops away. And I've got good at turning off my notifications and not getting too distracted by that generally. But with the music, something changes that will knock me out completely.
Another thing that I want to ask you: do you have a favorite prompt or way of or activity that you kind of involve Copilot in?
I think one of my favorite. I mean, much like music, it changes every week. I kind of get new favorites, and it kind of depends the mood I'm in. So I demo Copilot an awful lot with clients, so I go through a lot of stories I tell there. I love the ones in meetings. You can summarize the meetings, and I love telling people about how you can kind of recap the meeting, which is great. You can say which are the actions, but you can also dig deeper and say, how did you get to those actions? Was it an easy decision? Was it a hard one? I love those things that you wouldn't do with just meeting notes. It's the kind of thing you wouldn't capture that you can drill into. That probably if I was speaking to one of you about a meeting, I'd ask, was it okay? You don't naturally write those down. You can do that with Copilot, and you can ask it how often it interrupts people. So I love that one with meetings. Everyone talks about meetings with Copilot, so I won't spend too long on that. The other one I love is about creating test data and test content for things. So, if you're writing code, I've come from a SharePoint background for many years. I love that ability to kind of spin up a page and have it real content. I'm really sorry, ipsum lorem. Your time is dead now, because I can spin up some proper stuff related to real content, and it's nice because it flows naturally. If you see ipsum lorem, what was I looking at? Something the other day that I'd left in some code, and again, it jarred with me. It didn't feel natural, versus being able to kind of spin 3 or 4 paragraphs of a SharePoint page and copy and paste that across. Or the example, and I tweeted and put out on LinkedIn about this recently. I wanted to help myself with demos, and especially with Teams meetings. You have to gather about 5 or 6 people because you don't want to record a real meeting because it may be sensitive data. We're demoing Copilots for Microsoft 365 within our live environment, so we've got to be careful about what we show. So what I did was create a script that would allow you to spin up lots of different Teams meetings in different browsers using different profiles. I used Azure text to speech, but I just used plain Microsoft Copilot to generate a transcript for that meeting. And I said, I want it in this format. So I make sure that it's got the time, the name, and then each line. So I know that format can be put into there and can be read through my script. And then each of the voices will go through. And you hear this, it drives my wife crazy, because I tend to leave the door open and leave it running in the other room, and we have a little chat. And I know Garry and I share the love for the little blue cartoon dog called Bluey. I try and bring Bluey into my demos as much as possible. And so I had Bluey joining as a developer, and I was like, let's see where Copilot comes. And the project manager was talking to Bluey and saying, right, what have you done? And Bluey was like, I haven't done anything. Why not? I'm a cartoon dog. And it's kind of having this slightly random conversation within there, all in this very formal Azure spoken voice from it. But it's that example of being able to get that transcript and being able to tailor. And while that was a jokey one with Bluey, I now have something that each client I go and speak to, I can tailor that towards what their interests are. So whether it's the sector they're in, whether it's the kind of type of people, are they more HR, are they more IT, operations, sales, I can tailor that meeting. I can sit it running for 15, 20 minutes, and I've got a lovely, very client-specific one that will resonate with them, and I can talk about on there. And I've had this way of doing it, that we did it in the manual way with a few colleagues, and it was about Project Phoenix. And I'm so bored of talking about this same meeting. Now I've got something new to keep me entertained as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That is so cool.
Yeah, I love that scenario. I love the alternative to the lorem ipsum, right? And the advantages that gives as as a developer, you need some test data. It's just a given, right? It's stuff that we don't really want to do, but we've got it. And in some cases, we have a luxury, right?
It could be JSON, could be CSV files. It's not just that wordy stuff you can do with it as well.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, it could be text, but it could be something you want to mold into like you said, JSON, XML, whatever that your code is writing. But it gives you that kind of improvement of what was there in the past. When you show it to people, it can then resonate with them more, because it's not like placeholder text where people kind of go, oh, well, imagine that there's going to be something here, right? It's not there now, but imagine it. And, that's difficult. Right? Exactly. Yeah. Whereas if you show something that's kind of more real world, it might not be perfect. Actually, people will probably pick up on that more and go, okay, it's talking about products, but I know that that's not our product, so we definitely need to change that. And it's already getting people thinking in the right way. You've kind of, you've sped that process up essentially.
Yeah, and you've reminded me of another one. Exactly that. You've got this real life data. You can't give that to developers, or you can't give that to testers. Great, take that real life data, feed that. Considering your token size and all the good things like that, but take that data, load it in and say, remove all scenarios, change all the names. So it's GDPR, save, maybe take the scenarios. Maybe you've had an error that you want to test. So you've got a proxy that you want to test it with. I know you guys love that. Then you could sort of say, bring this scenario into it, put that into the data, and you can recreate that within the specific data of issues you've had. Those lovely Irish names of O'Donnell and things with apostrophes in that still catch people out. You can make sure you've got those different things into that scenario with a few lines.
Yeah, we talk development, we talk code, but like I say, the test data side of things is so important. Like I say, to capture those potential bugs that we all know happen, right? And they always catch us out. And just adding that into, kind of a prompt that you use for generating all this test data, like make sure you put special characters in, like you mentioned, apostrophes, but also, other things in there, different languages as well, have them regionalized, remove it, privacy. Yeah. Like I say, removing personal data, taking something that is real and just kind of going, well, I know that I want to use something that's more lifelike. So yeah, those are great examples. So thank you very much, Kev, for coming and talk to us today and sharing your insights. I'm definitely going to go and try a few new things as well off the back of this. I've got a few ideas. I'd love to share them as well. But yeah, on behalf of myself and from Waldek, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you, and I hope enjoy your Copilot journey, everyone.